You know, in every constituency across India, there's a language being spoken that you will not find in any party manifesto. It's not about slogans or grand ideologies. It's a language of the soil, of livelihoods, of the quiet dignity that people try to build in their daily lives. For way too long, political strategy has been about one thing, shouting your promises louder than the other guy. But what if the real strategy wasn't about shouting at all? What if it was about learning to listen, to really listen to this deeper language? Today, that's exactly what we're going to explore, a blueprint for doing just that. And let's be clear, this isn't just a manual for winning an election. It's a framework for earning the right to govern. We're going to move beyond the politics of noise and into the science of service, using one specific constituency as our map, as our ground truth. This sentence right here, it diagnoses the core illness of our democracy today, the trust deficit. Think about it. When a farmer has to look at a broken road day after day, or a graduate is holding a degree but has no job to go to, a politician's speech on a stage, well, it becomes meaningless, doesn't it? It's just noise. The real work, the only work that actually matters, is to replace that noise with tangible results, to replace those promises with real performance, to build trust. Because in the end, trust is the only currency in politics that has any real, lasting value. Everything else is temporary.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. Our journey today follows a pretty clear path. First, we'll dig into what happens when promises just aren't enough, that cycle of grievance. Then, we're going to introduce a new compass for leaders, a kind of strategic doctrine. We'll immediately apply it to a real-world case study to show you how to read the ground truth. From there, we'll dissect the anatomy of a genuine mandate. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll connect the strategy of winning to the much bigger responsibility of governing.
So let's start here. What happens when promises aren't enough? Well, a cycle of grievance begins. And it's not loud or dramatic. Not at first. It's a quiet frustration, a quiet anger that builds up in homes, in villages, over a long period of time. It's that deep-seated feeling that the system just isn't built for you, that your concerns are falling on deaf ears. This isn't about some grand political theory. No, it's about the tangible, daily failures that people are forced to live with. And this is where politics truly lives or dies, right in that gap between a promise that was made and the reality that is being lived. Now, I want you to look at this list. These are the specific grievances that came out of the Angetyongpang constituency in Nagaland. But honestly, they tell a national story, don't they? High youth unemployment. That's a whole generation of educated, ambitious young people who see no future for themselves in their own hometowns. Poor roads and power. Look, these aren't just minor inconveniences. They are blocked arteries of the local economy. They isolate entire communities and they just stifle any chance of growth. Lack of political accountability, that feeling that leaders are only visible during elections, and development neglect, the sense that progress is something that happens somewhere else, to other people. And finally, a real concern over local identity, a fear that their unique culture is being washed away. These are not just bullet points on a slide. They are the lived realities that form the very bedrock of the political landscape.
So when you're faced with this complex wall of grievances, how does a leader even begin to navigate? Relying on the old methods, on instinct alone. That's like trying to sail in a storm without a compass. It's just not enough anymore. This is where we have to shift from simply diagnosing the problem to actually designing a solution. And that requires a new kind of compass, a methodical, structured doctrine for understanding reality before you even attempt to change it. We call this the Chaturmukha doctrine. It comes from the Sanskrit word chaturmukha, which means four-faced. But don't let the name intimidate you. The idea is actually very simple and very powerful. It's a discipline. It forces a leader to look at the world from four critical perspectives at the same time. First, you analyze the electorate, not as some abstract vote bank, but as a community of real people with real hopes. Second, you have to assess your own party's position with brutal honesty. Third, you must respect and understand your opponent's strengths. And finally, and maybe most importantly, you identified the core issues that truly matter on the ground. It's a 360-degree view that moves you out of the world of guesswork and into strategic clarity. So let's break down those four faces. First, the electorate profile. This is about asking, who are the people, really? What are their demographics? Yes, but what are their deepest aspirations? What keeps them up at night? What are their real grievances? Second, party positioning. What are our genuine strengths? And maybe more critically, where are we weak? What do people not trust us on? Third, the opponent landscape. Who are we actually up against? What are their strengths? Why do people vote for them? You have to understand that. And fourth, the core issues. If you boil it all down, what is the one conversation rooted in local reality that we absolutely must own? When you map these 4 quadrants together, you're creating more than a strategy. You're creating a reflection of reality itself. All right, enough with the theory. Let's take this framework and put it to work. Let's apply it to a real place with real people. Our case study, as I mentioned, is the Angetyongpang constituency in Nagaland. This is where abstract data starts to tell a profoundly human story. This is the point where we stop talking about people and we start listening to the ground truth. So here it is, Angetyongpang in the Mokachung district. This is a land with a very distinct and proud identity, and it's predominantly home to the Ao Naga community. To even begin to understand the politics here, you first have to try and understand the culture, the history, and the people. And this approach, it's rooted in a core constitutional value we should all hold dear, the dignity of the individual and of the community. See, true governance isn't about imposing some uniform vision from the top down. It's about respecting the unique character of every single part of our nation and its people.
Now, I want you to consider this number, a 91.6% literacy rate in the district. This single data point tells an incredibly powerful story. This is not an electorate that can be swayed by empty slogans or hollow promises. These people are educated, they are aware, and they are critical thinkers. For any leader, this number is a very clear instruction. Your communication must be intelligent, it has to be respectful, and it absolutely must be backed by facts. You're not talking at them, you are speaking to a deeply informed public.
And it's not just that they read, they participate, they show up. A voter turnout of nearly 88%, that is an incredibly high level of civic engagement. It signals a community that believes its voice matters, and they are more than ready to use that voice to demand accountability. Now, when you combine that high literacy rate with this high turnout, the message becomes unmistakable. Performance is non-negotiable. The people are watching, they understand the issues, and they will absolutely deliver their verdict at the ballot box.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the political history here. Over a 30-year span, this seat has swung between 5 different affiliations. And look at this, 3 consecutive victories for independent candidates. So what does this volatility tell us? It tells us that party loyalty here is very weak. The voters in this constituency are not committed to a flag or a symbol, they are committed to a person. They consistently vote for the most credible candidate they can find, regardless of their party affiliation. In this constituency, a strong local reputation and a real record of service can completely eclipse the power of any party machinery. This is the central insight that changes everything.
Okay, so knowing all this, the core grievances, the high engagement of the electorate, and the candidate-centric nature of the politics, how do you go about building a mandate? You don't guess. You don't hope for the best. You engineer it. You create a precise blueprint for victory that is built not on assumptions, but on the cold, hard ground truth. So let's examine the anatomy of what that mandate actually looks like.
So what does the ideal candidate look like in this specific place? The data gives us a very clear profile. They must have deep, authentic roots in the AO tribal community and a spotless personal reputation. On a scale of 1 to 5, those are both a 5. They're non-negotiable. Next, a strong public service record and a good education are vital, especially to connect with these aspirational, highly literate voters. We score those as a 4. And then notice, fundraising ability is lower on the list, a 3. In this particular constituency, the data clearly shows that trust is far more valuable than money. You're looking for a person who literally embodies the values of the community they want to serve.
The strategy, then, it just becomes clear and logical. Step 1, select a candidate who fits that specific profile we just built. This is the single most critical decision you will make. Step 2, launch a disciplined, issue-based campaign that speaks directly to the top grievances we identified, jobs and connectivity. No distractions, no getting pulled into side arguments. Step 3, build trust, not hype. Differentiate your entire campaign through transparency and a consistent presence on the ground. Be seen, be available. And finally, step 4, mobilize the necessary resources to compete effectively. It's a clear, sequential path from analysis straight to action.
But here's the thing. Winning an election, that's only the beginning. It is the starting line, not the finish line. A true mandate isn't something that's just given to you on polling day. It's something that has to be earned, day by day, over the 5 years that follow. So the final and most important part of this blueprint is connecting the campaign strategy to a long-term vision for effective, responsive governance. This is the core principle that has to guide everything you do. The entire blueprint we've just walked through is designed to achieve one thing, to build a lasting relationship with voters that is based on credibility and performance. You're not selling them a temporary promise. You are demonstrating enduring trustworthiness.
Because noise is temporary, it fades the morning after the election. Trust is the foundation of a lasting political legacy, and it's the only thing that creates real stability in a volatile political environment like the one we've seen. And building that trust in the modern age means you have to use modern tools for governance, not just for campaigning. For a highly literate population like this one, digital outreach is absolutely key. But this isn't about broadcasting propaganda. It's about establishing genuine feedback loops, things like SMS helplines, so you can stay connected and responsive long after the election is over. This is how you govern with consent. And of course, this comes with a tremendous responsibility to use people's information ethically to protect the privacy of every individual, especially in line with our country's evolving legal framework on data protection. Trust is built by being trustworthy with their data, with their concerns, with their voice.
So this leaves us with a final and, I think, crucial question. We've mapped out a very data-driven path to electoral victory. But can that same path, can it also be a blueprint for dignity? Can a system that is designed to win an election also be a system that respects the voter, that delivers on its promises, and that ultimately uplifts the lives of the people it's supposed to serve? The data suggests it is absolutely possible. But it requires leaders who understand that the ultimate purpose of politics is not the acquisition of power, but the advancement of human progress. If you want to become a people-centric leader and uplift your constituency, get in touch with blueprintstrategies.ai at mgr@blueprintstrategies.ai or call 0800-4204-1602. Purpose beyond politics.